power within. That's the whole point of the talk, sing to the power that's within us. And a lot of people on this planet don't think there's a top-down model to life where there's some power above, some hierarchy, but that life is bottom-up. We are biological animals in a natural environment, and there's the power within us to make a difference in the world. Jeff already told you a little bit about FFRF. We're growing fast. We have more than 23,000 members in the United States. We just expanded our building in downtown Madison. Come look us up, right 2 blocks from the state capitol. I think the governor can see our building from his office. And one of our members in Arizona donated a brand new Steinway grand piano. So you can come and listen to me play there. It's a Model A concert piano in our new auditorium there. But this is gorgeous what you have here. This is amazing. Look at this building and really wonderful people. So let me just do one tune from the point of view of those of us who are non-believers. I know Unitarians have a mix. You have some believers and some non-believers and some who don't even know, why they're here, but they're here. But I talk at a lot of Unitarian groups around the country. Since the 80s, I've been talking at Unitarian congregations, and they're all different. Some of them are very spiritual, kind of, and all that, and some of them are militant atheists. You know what I mean? They're all different. Each one, and that's the way it should be. Each local group should decide for itself. There's no Vatican, here's what thou must believe and do, right? Which is really cool. But I do notice one commonality in every single Unitarian congregation around the world, really. The coffee pot. I think that's your idol of worship. You gather. It's a mind-expanding kind of thing. Anyway.
Should that be next to the chalice?
Maybe you should put it up here and just bow down. The Freedom from Religion Foundation, we like to use the word freethinker because it's a positive word. Atheist is a great word. I'm an atheist. I love that word, and some of you like it too. Agnostic is a wonderful word, but freethinker is like an umbrella that encompasses all different kinds of non-belief. Wherever we call ourselves an atheist, or an agnostic, or a secular humanist, or an atheist, whatever, we don't care. We all disbelieve in the same God, so it doesn't really matter. I used to be a minister. I preached the gospel for 19 years, and I changed my mind. And you can read my story in the book Godless, which tells that whole reason why. One of the bravest things any person can ever do is say, I was wrong. That's really hard for people to do, to say, I was wrong. And that's what I told Oprah Winfrey in 1984 on her show, which is the day that Annie Laurie and I met, by the way. We have a videotape of the day we met on that show. She said, why did you change your mind? I said, well, I was wrong. I made a mistake. I used to believe one way, and I just, And in America, we're free to say that. So here's a tango. I chose the tango because the church officially outlawed the tango. Did you know that? The tango in the 1920s was seductive, it was sensual, it was out of the bordellos of Argentina, and nobody should dance the tango. So of course, what did everybody want to dance? Is that loud enough? Beware of dogma. It has a bite. Beware of dogma. It wants a fight. Beware of dogma. It will ignite a holy war by itself. Beware of dogma. It'll trap your minds. Religious dogma. It'll make you blind. Beware of dogma. It's not designed to let you think for yourself. If we let it out in the universe, there will be no doubt everything is worse. Beware of dogma. Don't let it loose, that unchained dogma. It'll reproduce. Tie up your dogma. There's no excuse for ignorance anymore. dogma. Don't let it loose, that unchained dogma. It'll reproduce. Tie up your dogma. There's no excuse for ignorance anymore. Please clean up after your dogma. So I'm going to talk about my book that came out this year called Life-Driven Purpose. And that came out in April. But it's always more exciting to talk about the next book. It's not out. It'll be out in February the 2nd. It's a book that Richard Dawkins asked me to write. Do you all have your copies of The God Delusion here? Let's open with me to chapter 2, verse 1. There's one sentence. It's really, he's been called strident, because these atheists that are out there, really, they're called. But when you read the book, it's passionate, but it's not strident. It's not angry. It's like a plea. It's like we can be better than this. We are nicer than God. We are it's not like a negative put down. It's like, aren't we better than that, than our history of divisiveness and religious oppression? But there's one sentence in The God Delusion that has really raised a lot of ire from people. In fact, the chief rabbi of England called it anti-Semitic. And he later retracted that when he thought about it. But it's the first sentence of chapter 2. It says, the God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction. Jealous and proud of it. Petty, unjust, an unforgiving control freak. A misogynistic, homophobic, racist. An infanticidal, genocidal, filicidal, pestilential, sadomasochistic, capriciously malevolent bully. You can see how that sentence would be. And he said he's got more attack from that, and so he was preparing a defense of it, and he said, could you maybe give me some Bible verses to defend each of those 19 nasty adjectives? And I said, sure. And as we were working on it, he said, you know what? This would make a good book. Pun intended. With one chapter for each of those adjectives. So it's coming out in February. It's called God, the most unpleasant character in all fiction. Part 1 says Dawkins was right, and I have a chapter for each of those 19 verses, because nobody reads the Bible. Nobody actually reads it, They think it's this wonderful thing. It's in the hotel room drawers, But if you actually read it, you go, oh, did you see that thing in the Netherlands? It was on YouTube. Did you see that? Where they took the Bible, but they made it look like a Quran, and they read to people verses. Can you believe this? You should cut off the woman's hand if she touches her husband's enemy's penis. You should cut her hand. That's horrible. And they all thought it was from the Quran, from Islam. And they read all these horrible things. You should utterly annihilate and destroy all the infidels. And people said, yeah, that's horrible. Islam is a horrible religion. And then they took the cover off and said, hey, look at this. So basically, a book is an attempt to educate. However, part 1 says Dawkins was right. Part 2 says Dawkins was too kind. I have 8 more chapters of things that he missed. So you'll look forward to it. Anyway, Life-Driven Purpose. That's what I came today to talk about. I used to be a preacher, and preachers can talk forever. In fact, the word reverend is a typo. Did you know that? The first letter used to be an N. So, and you know what I'm talking about, right? You sat through some of those.
My father was one.
Oh, really? Okay. I could talk for hours and hours. Some people have nothing to say, but they say it beautifully. Have you ever thought of that? But anyway, that was me. I was a believer. I truly, truly, truly thought it was the truth. But my mom and dad and one of my brothers, we all became atheists eventually, which was kind of neat. After I did, my mom and dad too. My mom is a sweet Sunday school teacher. And she left the faith, and she told a reporter once, she said, it's so great not believing it. It's so wonderful to be an atheist. Now, I don't have to hate anymore, she said. Isn't that something? Because if you're inside of an insider group, you have to wonder, who's the outsiders? Who's the insiders? Who are the people that we don't like? And who are the people that we do like? You're always making the calculation. And she said, when you become non-religious, whatever you call yourself, Suddenly all of that disappears and we're just one species. We're just one humanity. We're not insiders and outsiders. We're all just human beings. And she thought it was so nice to be able to just relax and treat everybody for who they are and not have to be divisive. That's one of the things about religion, is it's divisive. It puts people insiders and outsiders. So that phrase, my mom said, I'm nicer than God was. She read the Bible too. And so, but our brother Tom, Daryl's an atheist too. In fact, he's setting up a winter solstice sign in the Washington State Capitol this week, protesting a nativity scene. He's a really aggressive non-believer. But our brother Tom is still a believer. He's a retired high school principal. And we call him the white sheep of the family. He's the one who stayed in the faith while all the rest of us left, which is kind of weird. He wondered what the heck happened. He sent my dad a copy of Rick Warren's book, The Purpose-Driven Life. Have you seen the book? Have you read it? No? Good. Really, The Purpose-Driven Life is hugely popular. Rick Warren, the Saddleback Church, he said the opening prayer at Obama's first inauguration, just to speak, The Purpose-Driven Life. It sold millions and millions of copies to tell us, basically, that it's not about us. The very first sentence of his book, The Purpose-Driven Life, says, it's not about you. So guess what is the first sentence of my book, Life-Driven Purpose? It is about you, just like that song said. It's from within. He thinks, and most ministers think, life is top down. There's this authority up there. There's this purpose. Our lives are purpose-driven. We are like part of an army or part of a plantation where we need the master to tell, what should I do now? And so many people are vulnerable to that. Have you noticed? They need someone else to tell them, here's where you fit in. Here's your marching orders. So someday when you die, you can hear from the Lord saying, well done, my good and faithful servant. Like we need to be validated by something outside of ourselves. So I think that whole model is upside down. My brother Tom sent a copy of The Purpose-Driven Life to my dad. Dad's 90 now. I'm going to go see him in a couple of weeks. And Dad, who is now an atheist, he read a couple of chapters and he went, because The Purpose-Driven Life, really, you can read it, of course, if you want, but it's nothing more than newly packaged, old-fashioned biblical fundamentalism. That's all it is. According to Rick Warren, you want to know why you were placed on this planet? Do you want to know what the purpose of your life is? It's not about you. Don't think it's about you. You want to know what Rick Warren says it is?
Is there a God?
Yeah, that's part of it, yeah. To believe in God, to glorify God, to worship with others in glorifying God, and to get others to go to church with you. That's why you were placed on this planet. That's the whole reason you were born. Isn't that wonderful? Doesn't that make you feel, validated or something? So I think it's upside down. I think most religious traditions, and Unitarianism is a religion, but it's an interesting religion because it's no creed. A religion with no creed, I guess for IRS purposes, yeah, it's a religion. But when you think philosophically, is that a religion? It's great to have this place to come, but is this really a religion? Yeah. Because you can write a check to this place and it's deductible on your taxes, so it's a religion, right? But Unitarians are...
Spiritual quest, too.
A spiritual quest, right, all right. And some of you are spiritual and some of you are not. Some of you don't think the word spirit even means anything, but it's wonderful that we can come together and share our philosophical, meaningful, spiritual, whatever we call it, our quest in life. Even if there is a quest, maybe, do cats and dolphins sit around wondering, why am I here? What is my spiritual... They just live, right? When we are animals too, we just live. But most religions, okay, not most believers, but most religions have a structure that is top down. There's a Vatican, there's a headquarters, there's an authority, there's a holy book, there's something up here above us. In fact, most countries of the world before the United States were top down. Most countries of the world had constitutions and governmental structures that were under the sovereign authority of something, like a monarch or a god or a religion. Or look at the countries that have some, if you're going to form a country, what's your authority? Where does it come from? And there was this idea that it came from up there somewhere, and it was our rights were then given to us. And you know what I mean? Our country took that and totally inverted it. What did we do with the United States? What's the first words of our Constitution? We the people. We took the people, which were down here, and we did it this way. We the people. We have a country that, at least on paper, is bottom up. We decide. There's no authority, there's no sovereign, there's no God in the Constitution. There's no Christianity. The only references to religion in our country are exclusionary. No religious test for public office, and as Jeff quoted, the First Amendment to you. So I think we non-believers, and we liberal believers, if you want to call it that too, view the world not as a top-down thing where we're getting marching orders from some sovereign, but this way around. We are the ones, within ourselves, we decide. So Purpose-Driven Life, the book, the first chapter of the book talks about the whole idea. What is purpose? What does purpose mean? And there's not enough time to go into great depth. It's a philosophical question, and the foreword to the book was written by Daniel C. Dennett. Some of you know who he is, the great philosopher. And by the way, we just made an audiobook, and Daniel Dennett read the foreword to the audiobook, which is pretty fun. And Dawkins just finished reading the foreword to this next book that's coming out. So some people like to listen to books on tape, I guess. But purpose is aiming for a target, a goal. A biological organism like you and me, we have needs and wants and fears and things. And so we have, why do the roots of a tree reach to the river? Why is that?
Water.
Yeah, it needs something. It wants something. It's striving to reach something, So in our lives, to survive and to enjoy our lives, there are needs and wants and fears that we have, and we strive to reach some target, some goal. It could be to get something you want, food or a mate or shelter or safety. It can be to avoid something you don't want, like a predator or disasters or the weather or whatever. But in our lives, we're all the same and we're all different because we live in different environments. The purpose comes not from somebody telling you, here's what you must do. You must reach to that river with your roots. It comes from within. The tree itself, the biological organism itself has needs and wants, and how do we get them? So it's not top-down. And in Purpose-Driven Life, I point out that glorifying a God, glorifying a master, is the opposite of purpose. It's the surrender of purpose. It's like saying, I don't have a purpose. It's like I'm a hammer on the wall that someone else designed, and then someone else picks up the hammer and uses it, right? A hammer doesn't have any purpose of its own, does it? It's just a thing hanging on the wall. And most religions teach, and the Bible even teaches, and I used to preach, that we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us. We were like hammers on a wall, waiting for this master designer to come pick us up and use us for whatever his purpose was. With a hammer, you can construct things, but you can also use it as a weapon, right? And look at holy wars. Look at the weapons that have been used because of surrendering. Look at what people will do when they surrender their mind to some higher power. Look at the things they will do. Look at San Bernardino. There were people on Facebook praising that couple for having the faith and the loyalty to their God, to forsake their child, their 6-month-old daughter, to do this thing. They're being praised by certain people who have this mentality that there's a higher being up there who gives us our orders. So, I think the fact that purpose comes from within us means we are not slaves, we are not shackled. And by the way, look at the postures of prayer. Have you ever noticed when people pray, what are they doing? They're making themselves small before a great man, right? You're bowing down, you're humbling yourself. I'm no threat. And what is this? Your wrists are shackled together, so I'm no threat to you. If you look at this, all this demeaningness of a human being to put yourself down into a... But I think, since it's bottom up, I think since we have life-driven purpose, not purpose-driven life, that one of the greatest messages we non-believers offer to the world, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, this might even sound wrong, and some people say, huh? But I think one of the greatest messages, the good news, I used to preach the good news of the gospel, but I think the really good news is this: there is no purpose of life. And that is great news. If there were a purpose of life, we would be secondary. We would be members of some order or some military or some structure. There's no purpose of life. Life is its own reward. Life is what it is. We are here and this is it. We live, right? But to say there's no purpose of life is not to say there's no purpose in life. There's immense purpose in life as you are striving to reach those goals. And you choose what that is. It is about you. It's about you and your choices and what your wants and your talents and your needs and your abilities and your fears and whatever. It's about you and it's about me choosing to live our own lives. So there is purpose in life, and that makes a big difference. There's no purpose, there's no meaning of life. We wouldn't want there to be a meaning of life. If there's a God, is he sitting up in heaven going, why am I here? Oh, what's my purpose? Where do I find something outside of me? If there's a God, doesn't it get to just be what it is, right? So why can't we? Why can't this beautiful dog here just be itself, right? So all of us have dreams and desires like that Richard Rogers song from South Pacific. You got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, how are you going to make your dreams come true? We got to have those drives and dreams. So there's purpose in life. Who would dare say that someone like Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who was an atheist, by the way, who fought for a half century for this crazy idea that women should participate in their own democracy. What a crazy idea. We're coming up, what are we, the 95th anniversary now? Mm-hmm. Wow, we're coming up on the 100th anniversary. Can you imagine less than a century ago, you women could not vote? Isn't that weird? Now we progress. We're way past that point where it's weird anymore, right? Now it's just like, of course, right? Slavery and all these other things, of course, we now see, but it takes a while to get past that. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who was an atheist, and her friend and cohort, Susan B. Anthony, who was an agnostic Unitarian, who wasn't as aggressive about her atheism or her lack of belief as Elizabeth Cady Stanton was, but she admitted in a letter she was applauding from the sidelines. Yeah, go for it. Elizabeth Cady Stanton could hardly write anything without putting in some Bible criticism. The Bible and the church are the greatest stumbling blocks in the way of women's emancipation, she said, right? In fact, she once wrote an article for a bicycle magazine in which she criticized the Bible. Figure that out. Because women were supposed to ride side saddle, right? So she was really out there. She was a woman, she was an atheist with no purpose of life, but purpose in life. She found a problem. She found something to attach to and to solve that problem, and she did it. She died before the 19th Amendment, but she did get to work on that. So it's the same with all of us. No one's going to tell you, what if I were to get up and say, I am the atheist Pope of Wisconsin, and here's what thou must... you would all laugh, right? You would all leave, right? You don't want somebody authority telling you, right? Although a lot of people go to church and they want that authority telling them what they should do. The beauty of this congregation is that there is nobody telling any of us what we must think. But the purpose could come from something accidental. Maybe you have a sibling who dies of a rare disease, and you say, I'm going to fight that disease. I'm going to go after that, right? You find a purpose. You want to try to solve a problem. As long as there are problems to solve, there's purpose in life. And there are plenty of problems. You can see social problems or political problems or environmental problems or you name it, inequality or oppression. Or there could be the problems of, not just the threats and the disasters and all that, the positive problems that come with finding knowledge and science and creating beauty and art and whatever it is. I think the best news we offer to the world is that there is no purpose-driven life, but that life itself drives its own purpose. And that's kind of why we're here, to create and to make our own purpose. Do we have time for questions?
Yeah, we've
all
got
right.
plenty of time.
Oh, good, okay. So we can stop now for...